All right, before we get started with this video, make sure that you open up the student activity book and go to page 307. If you haven't done that, go ahead and pause the video and go there first. All right, here we go. Equivalent fractions. Read and discuss the problem situation. Louis works summers at Maria's fruit farm. One day, Maria agreed to give Louis extra pay if he could sell 2/3 of her supply of peaches. They started with 12 bags of peaches, and Louis sold 8 of them. Okay. So Louis said to Maria, 8 bags is 8/12 of the bags you wanted to sell. I think 2/3 is the same as 8/12. I can show you why. Louis made this drawing. Did Louis earn his pay? Explain your answer. So here it says 2/3 is 8/12. And it really does look like that's true. Okay. Now, one way we can, we have the bars right here. We can say yes. He did 2/3 is equivalent to 8/12. They're the same thing. All we're doing is, if you can see here, 12ths, there are like 4 pieces in every third. We just made smaller pieces. But really, we're having the same amount. Another way to look at it, kind of like in my lesson that I taught you before you saw this video, 2/3, if we multiply it by 1, and in this case, 4/4, we would get 8/12. How cool is that? Okay, so yes, 2/3 is equivalent to 8/12. So Louis was right. 2 fractions that represent the same part of a whole are equivalent fractions. The fractions 2/3 and 8/12 are equivalent. Maria said, you are just fracturing each third into 4/12. You can show what you did using the numbers. Here's what Maria wrote. 2/3 is the same thing as 2/3 times 1, written as 4/4. And when you do that, you get 8/12. Discuss what Maria did. How does multiplying the numerator and denominator by 4 affect the fraction? I want you to write you are multiplying by 1. Whatever fraction of 1 you multiply by, that's how many more slices you're creating. Let me explain that just a bit. So here, did we notice how when we multiply 4/4, look at how many pieces he split 1/3 into. 1, 2, 3, 4. It's like he split it into 4 smaller pieces. 4/4. Kind of cool. Okay, let's go ahead and go on to the next page. How do these fraction bars show equivalent fractions for 1/3? Well, we have, I just want you to write the equivalent fractions to 1/3. We have 1/3, and then how many sixths? 2/6. We have 3/9, 4/12, 5/15, 6/18. Now, I don't know, some of you might have noticed this. Some of you may have not. Do we see a pattern here? The numerators are going up by 1 every time. And look at the denominators. They're going up by 3s. They're going up by multiples of 3s. 3, 6, 9, 12, 15, 18. Pretty cool, huh? All right. You can show how to find fractions equivalent to 1/3. Numerically fill in the blanks and finish the equations. Okay, so this is basically just saying, okay, if we multiply 1/3 times 1, this is what we get. And in this case, we're going to make 1 2/2. Or we're creating 2 more equal parts. Okay, 1/3 times, we're going to create 3 equal parts. What's a fraction of 1 with 3? Oh, 3/3. So that would be 1 times 3 is 3. 3 times 3 is 9. Okay, 4 equal parts. That means we're going to times it by 4. 1/3 times 1 with a 4 in the fraction would be 4/4. 1 times 4 is 4. 3 times 4 is 12. Now this is where we get to create our own, but be careful because it's already given us part of the fraction down here. So what we have to think about is 3 times what gives me 15? 3 times 2, no, 3 times 3, no. 3 times 5 gets me 15. So I'm going to be doing 5 equal parts, timesing 5 more parts. And I need to make sure that my fraction of 1 is the same on the numerator than the denominator. So this is going to be 5/5. So 3 times 5 is 15. 1 times 5 is 5. So my fraction would be 5/15 is equivalent to 1/3. And over here, I don't have any information right here or right here. So I'm going to have to figure out 3 times what gives me 18. 3 times 6. So that means we're doing 6 equal parts here. Multiplying. The numerator and the denominator are going to both have 6. So, or you're basically saying 6, 6, or 1. 3 times 6 is 18. 1 times 6 is 6. So, right here, fill in the blanks and finish the equations. Then explain how these fraction equations show equivalent fractions. We are multiplying by 1. That's a number 1. That's an exclamation mark. We are multiplying by 1. We're just changing the fractions of 1. In this case, it was 2 halves, 3/3, 4/4, 5/5, and 6/6. So really, 1/3 is equivalent to 2/6, 3/9, 4/12, 5/15, 6/18. Okay, tell whether the fractions are equivalent. We have 1/6 and 2/12. If we were to do 1/6 times 2/2, that would give us 2/12. Sorry, that's messy. 2/12. So, yes. I'm just gonna write yes there. 3/6 and 5/9. Can 3 times anything get me 5? No, not really. No, those are not equivalent. If you think about it, 3 is half of 6. Is 5 half of 9? No, this would have to be 5/10. Okay, 6/12. Ooh, 6 is half of 12, so I think 6/12 is equivalent to a half. 8/15. Is 8 half of 15? Nope. 6/12 is equivalent to 1/2, but 8/15 is not. So, no. Those are tricky. Okay, here we go. On page 309, we're going through this pretty quick. Okay. The table on the right shows part of the multiplication table at the left. You can find, oh, so this is a multiplication facts table that you can use. You don't have to use it though. I know it's a little confusing. So we have here 1/3 times 1, and then in this case it's 6/6. Now, I really don't want you to worry about this yet. We're going to talk about that later, okay? Don't want you to get too confused with that. So, we said over here 1/3 is equivalent to 6/18. And what we did was we created 6 boxes. Here, did we see how we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6? We broke up 1/3 into 6 more pieces. And that's how we got 6/18. Okay? All right, complete each fraction equation. Look on the top row of the table above to find the multiplier. So 1 times something equals 4. Well, that would be 4, right? And since this fraction right here needs to be 1, we know this is going to be 4/4. Okay? Same thing for this one. 1 times what gets me 9? 9. And since this fraction right here is supposed to be 1, that's going to be 9/9. If I want to check it, I can say 3 times 9, and that is 27. So that's good. 1/3, so 1 times something equals 2. That would be 2. And since this fraction right here is 1, it's going to be 2 halves. 3 times 2 is 6, so that is correct. 1 times something equals 3. That's going to be 3. This fraction is going to be 3/3. 3 times what equals 30? That would be 10. So my fraction of 1 is going to be 10/10. 5 times what equals 30? 6. So my fraction of 1 is going to be 6/6. 8 times 6 is 48. That is correct. Tell whether the fractions are equivalent. 3/4 and 12/16. Let's see. Can I do 3/4 times anything to equal 12/16? Let's see. 3, 6, 9, 4/4. Would that work? Yes. It does work. What about this one? 1/2 times something to equal 5/12. 1 times what would give me 5? 5. So my fraction of 1 is 5/5. 1 times 5 is 5. Uh-oh. 2 times 5 is not 12, though. This would have to be a 10. So no, those are not equivalent. Here we have 9/10 times something equals 90/100. So 9 times 10 equals 90. Let's see, does 10/10 work? Yes, that does work. So yes, 9/10 and 90/100 are equivalent. Let's turn the page. This is going to be our last page. I want you to actually go ahead and figure out the puzzle penguin, okay? All right, find the fraction equivalent to the given fraction. So 1/4 times 2/2 would be, 4 times 2 would be 8, okay? 3/8 times 3/3 would be 9. 8 times 3 is 24, okay? So over here, now what we're going to do is we're going to find fractions equivalent to these fractions. I'm going to do these two for you, and then I want you to do the rest on your own because I want you to do a little bit of thinking for yourselves, all right? So 3/10, I'm going to do 3/10 times, I don't know, let's see, what fraction of 1 do I want to do? I'll keep it simple. I'll do 2/2. 3 times 2 is 6. 10 times 2 is 20. So 6/20 is equivalent to 3/10. Now number 17, I'll do 3/4, and I'm going to keep it simple. 3/4 times 2/2, that's my fraction of 1, equals, let's see, 3 times 2 is 6, and 4 times 2 is 8. So 6/8 is equivalent to 3/4. Now I want you to do 18, 19, 20, and 21, okay? And as a little challenge, I want you to do that one as well. All right, I hope this helped. Equivalent fractions can be a lot of fun. Just remember that all we're doing is we're just multiplying by 1, and we can change that fraction of 1 to be really anything we want. Good luck.